we all appreciate, because of the difficulties that were expressed by Mr. McCarthy, I would like to offer an amendment to the original resolution, where we would reduce the budget, basically reduced expenses by $500,000. Okay? So let me read this with the new numbers. The maximum limit on total appropriations for the City of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014 shall be no more than $301,816,248. That's $301,816,248. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $317,980,145. That is $317,980,145 less estimated intergovernmental grants of $16,163,897. So I'd like to offer that amendment, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Mr. Petrini.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that amendment. Actually, I'd like to support that amendment, only because it's a balancing act that we're doing every year, and it's tough to raise anybody's taxes, but it's also tougher when you start looking through the lines and through the 2 years that I've been here and starting to see some of the suffering from the people that are out there with some of the drainage issues. And I know it's capital, we're talking operating at this point, but to me it's all tied in together. The people of the city expect a lot from us, and I want to give it to the city. Number one, we had a search going on for a new superintendent, and I think this guy that we brought in, Dr. Rivera, is probably the best that could have happened for the city. With that being said, we asked them honestly to work together on a budget that we could work for, and some ways that we can turn our schools and get them even better than they are. And I'm very, very impressed with Dr. Rivera, and the worst thing that I think we can do at this point is to cut the legs out from under him because of what he's requesting that he needs. Nothing frivolous. Basically, we have to put our trust, and I believe he would be the person that we'd have to put our trust in to get our schools to go for excellence. Because let's look at this. Our property values do reflect a lot about our tax basis, just as Mr. McCarthy talked about. But even more so, our property values are really tied in lockstep with how successful our schools are. And if our schools are not up to par and are not succeeding, then I believe the detriment to the city is going to be far worse than higher taxes. That being said, it's very hard to raise taxes on anybody. I've been there for the people. How would you like to be living in an area that every time it rains you have to be careful whether or not you can even leave because you might be flooded? We're an old city. There's a lot of infrastructure problems that we have to address, and it takes money. We also have city salaries, and we have contractual obligations. I know everybody's probably tired of hearing it, but the simple truth is that we are not going to reopen it. I don't believe we should open up contracts that we agreed to. But going forward, I think the city really should take a hard look at what the private sector has been. And, you know, the private sector, I've taken it on the chin. I'm a businessman. I know the cuts that we've had to make just to stay competitive. That being said, I've never reneged on a contract. So I think when it comes time for these contracts to come up, there has to be a new direction, because to be raising taxes to people that are probably really at the end of the limit they can afford to every year, there has to be some kind of reassessment. I know we're all talking about, you know, we're going to go to Hartford, and we're going to have the state come on down and solve all our problems by giving us more money for ECS. I'm not going to bank on that. Oh, we're going to go. We went last year, we went 2 years ago, and the net result didn't turn out too well. And we're not going to put a budget with that. I think we all have to go up there and fight, but being practical, I'm not looking for the state to come and bail us out at this point. So with that being said, I think by cutting this we can't find a $500,000 worth of excess in a $318 million budget. I say there's the bitter pill because it is my district that's probably going to be raised up, represent a lot of the 4th and the 5th, but that being said, for the good of the city, the good of our school systems, the good of our property values, and for everyone, I would support this amendment.
Mr. Watts.
I would like to thank the chair for introducing this amendment. Thank you, Bruce. And I'll just say simply, I'll take it. Not the first offer, I'll take this one. We had the meeting earlier this Saturday, and we all talked about what are some of the things that are crippling our city. And we came up with ECS. It's really hurting our city. We're not getting our fair share. And during the finance presentation, we saw a pie graph. It showed that 90% of the city's budget is funded by property taxes, and then all the other money comes from everywhere else. $993 is just simply not enough money. Bruce, we talked about possibly putting together an ECS task force. I think it's definitely needed in support us as council members as we go up to Hartford. We talked about doing a bus trip. So we're going to try to do our due diligence to fight for our fair share. And we're going to do it in a bipartisan way. And I'd like to thank Bruce and Jerry for supporting this in a bipartisan manner. To Dave and John, your community has been hit hard. So I totally understand your vote because it's something that simply needs to be fixed. Your community has been hit hard by this budget. And my heart goes out to you and you because we can't continue to go to taxpayers and ask them to continue to keep on paying. We have to find solutions, and some of those solutions is tightening our belt. Start to look at when employees are hired, encourage them to move to the city so they could put some skin in the game. That's some of the things we looked at to encourage our employees and to create incentives that instead of them taking their salaries out of town and funding other fire departments, other police departments, and other school systems, that once they get their paycheck, they will decide to take our residency right here in Norwalk. This is a beautiful city. We have it all. And we should encourage our employees to actually move into the city. And I think that would help with contributing to the city's grounds. But the budget is what it is. We have to fund what we're obligated to fund. And I agree with Jerry when we talk about the superintendent. We want to support him. And for selfish reasons, the schools, there are two issues where people decide to buy a home. They look at crime, they look at school systems. And they want to make sure that when they invest into our property, that they're actually getting the school system that's going to prepare their kids for the future. So with that, I'd like to support the finance chair's amendment. Thank you, Bruce, for introducing it, and I urge my colleagues to support it.
Mr. Hempstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be also supporting the amendment. I'm usually one here at these meetings over the last decade, trying to nail a little bit further down on the percentage increases, but and I think it was needed over the years because there was always questions about the legitimacy of the budget presented by the Board of Education in the old days, because in a lot of aspects we propose something, we load up the auditorium with people because they were trying to cut programs, and the kids' sports, and the whole, even though we had to do a reduction, I mean, the taxpayer deserves the reduction, is that it never happened. But a couple of years ago, I think they actually hit bottom. And I think Mr. Longo, who was no longer here, was brought in as part of the controller for the Board of Education, found what turned out to be quite tumultuous, but that $4 million deficit that was in their health care. Unfortunately, some layoffs came about, but it showed that there were no more of the hidden pockets that used to happen all the time in those type budgets. And pile on top of that, they do have a new finance director who I have confidence in. I've always had confidence in Mr. Hamilton on the city side. And I think with Dr. Rivera, a combination of some new initiatives in there that some of these are one-time, some of them are multiple, where they're trying to make reforms to try and help reduce the cost of education and get the dollars back in the classroom where it's much needed. He deserves support at this stage of the game for those particular items. And that's one of the reasons right now I am going along, even though 500,000 is not normally what I'm with. I may have been with Dave in the old days, but I think right now that anything more than that sends a wrong signal to the Board of Education, Dr. Rivera. I think they've got some good leadership in there right now, and I think it's time to support them. As the other big picture stuff goes, you know, this tax on properties, the state has weighted us with to get our money out of it is a much antiquated process that is not income sensitive, and that's the problem. It's the biggest problem with it. The state refuses to do any kind of reform. It has tried to tackle it a couple times and has not done anything with it. Then we tacked on our ECS formula. We're getting dripped out of about $20 million a year from other communities of our size and our student population. We have a lot of things to take up with the state to try and reform to help not only this community but other communities that are suffering because of the way the property taxes are your only source of income. So I think it's a well thought out budget. I want to thank the Board of Education for making a presentation to the council, and Mr. Kimmel, chairperson, putting that together. Much of it, I think that over the last couple of years has helped too to take some of the mystery out of the Boards of Education budgets we used to get. And again, Mr. Hamilton, thank you. And I had a senior moment. For, as usual, putting together a very detailed and answering, more importantly, in a timely manner, any questions we were able to put out there. I really appreciate that. So, thank you.
Seeing no more hands, I would just again like to thank Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Barron, and Common Council for working so closely together. I'd also like to remind, nobody likes to raise taxes, and it's really a horrible thing that anybody has to do, but we do have to do the responsible thing. And I just want to point out that every council person, city clerk, and the mayor, we all live in town, and we're taxpayers. And so it makes it difficult, and we understand that we have to be responsible. We have to put together a responsible budget, and I think that together we have done that, and I appreciate everybody's support. So with that, do you want a roll call vote? Roll call vote, clerk, please. On the amendment, yes.
Mr. Hempstead.
Yes.
Mr. Petrini.
Yes.
Mr. Bonifant.
Yes.
Mr. Iannacone.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmel.
Thank you. Yes.
Ms. Stewart. Yes. Ms. Melendez.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Ms. Bowman.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Kides.
Yes.
Ms. Maggio.
Yes.
Ms. O'Toole.
Yes.
Sorry. Mr. Igneri.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Unanimous on the amendment.
I think the motion was,
Let's just-
do we need to vote on the motion?
Second motion.
Yeah, that was it, yeah, we voted on the amendment. Okay, well, I don't think there's anything else to come before this august body.
No, we have to vote on
Yeah, that was actually a resolution. We have to vote on the resolution.
Okay, now we'll vote on the resolution as amended. Yeah, the motion to amend, and now the motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous, thank you. And now, Mr. Igneri?
Make a motion to adjourn. That's all right. That's all right. We love you. That's all right. No. We're good. No, we're good. We're good. No, we're good. No, we're good. No, we're good. Yeah.